Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening everybody. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you've been following along with the Q&R and Scenic Valley Railroad build over the last few weeks, you will have seen me fill in the basic scenery in the spring diorama. This week I'll be back to carpentry as I start framing up the third level benchwork. So without further ado, let's just head out to the workshop and get busy. Well, yesterday I spent several hours designing the benchwork frames for the upper deck. This is a lot more complex than anything that has gone below it. The main complexities are in the areas over the helixes where I don't have room for proper framing between the track layers, and also where the exit from this helix has to run diagonally through the middle of the framing. So I have to find somewhere to get 4-inch deep holes through all the joists without weakening them too much. And it can be done. It just needs a lot more thought. I'm going to start off with the two over this helix, and then I will either work my way down the back wall or around the peninsula. I haven't decided yet. So the first thing I've got to do is start chopping up plywood, and I don't have enough. I have 13 pieces down here, and I have 2 more wider pieces over there. So I have the equivalent of about 5 sheets, and it'll be a good start to get the first few frames built, but certainly not enough to finish it. Once I've used this up, I should have a much better idea of how much more I need. So let me get on the table saw and I'll be right back. Well, here is the first frame that goes over the front half of the helix, almost done. The first thing that's going to be plainly obvious is that it is very deep. And it may look as though it wastes wood, but actually it uses less because the top of the frame is now at the right height to put the top straight on it, bearing in mind that it is basically a yard area above here. So it will get 1/2-inch plywood and 1/2-inch foam, with the frame being as deep as it needs to be flush with the bottom of the fascia. I haven't framed the front triangle yet. That will be done in situ once I've confirmed that the diagonal is in the right place. At the moment it's just tack screwed in place with no glue. The next thing I've got to do is get it installed, or positioned anyway. Figure out exactly where it goes on top of the helix. So let me do that and I'll be right back. Well, I've now mounted this frame approximately where I think it goes. It might actually be exactly right. I know it's right in 2 directions, although it might have to go a little bit further back or further forward by a very small amount. It's also, as near as I can tell, parallel with the axis of the room, which is quite important, although I won't know that for sure until I've built the next one and bolted the 2 together. And then I've got to figure out how to support it. Basically it'll be a case of installing some mounting brackets on the sides of the helix. So now I need to get the other one built. I took the front diagonal off because I can't really build the triangle until I know that the rectangular frame is in the right place. So let me get back to work and I'll check in with you again later. Well, here is half of the next frame temporarily installed in the right location, and it's not quite right. I should have realized that I couldn't get any framing underneath the roadbed at this point. So instead of having the helix transfer to the upper frame, to the upper deck at this rib, I'm going to put this piece of Subroad bed back on the top of the helix, attach the helix and just cantilever the frame over the top of it. And then I will make the joint nearer to that other rib around there. And then I think I can make it work. This piece was always going to be a bit of trial and error, because trying to figure out all the angles and the clearances away from the actual railroad was always going to be pretty much impossible. So I'm going to start making the modifications to this frame and I'll be right back. Well, this second frame over the helix is proving to be even more complex than I first imagined. I mentioned yesterday about the problems at this end, but this is now fixed. It's resting on the helix at this point, and I can put diagonal screw down into the support. So that's solved, and there is plenty of space for the trains to go through there. This area is still a work in progress. I think I have a solution. Obviously I have to cut some out here, so this joist here cannot be continuous, so I may as well get rid of this altogether. I'm going to put a pair of legs in, extend the helix as though it's another lap, and then bridge across here where my hand is, and that will support everything nicely. This piece of sub-road bed at the top of the helix has to be made wider because I need to run the tracks out so they are beside this one instead of on top of it. I have plenty of space because the fascia is about here, so there's loads of room in here. So let me go away and do all that, and I will be right back. Well, I have had enough fun for one day. This piece here has really been kicking my butt, but I've got it worked out now. All the hard stuff is done. This piece that I'm looking at now with the track on it is at the end of the helix. So the joint will be here, there'll be a splice plate under it. Everything else is the upper level benchwork frame, which I've been working on. There's a whole system of cantilevers on cantilevers. The complexity, of course, stems from having to leave a hole for the trains to go through coming off the helix. I can't quite finish this area at the moment. I've got to build the next two, get these in place, and then work out where the track goes, and then work my way back and join it up from here. But that will be a project for tomorrow. So don't go away, I will check in with you later. Well, here is the next frame, temporarily supported in position. The reason for the very tall back frame is that they'll be bolted to the frame behind it, and the two will basically form a balanced cantilever. So these pieces in the back do double duty. Not only do they act as risers for the high level road bed, but they are also the heel of the cantilever. Otherwise this joint was only 2 inches, it will have no strength, but now that it's 7.5, it will add support to this front piece. At the moment I can still flex it just a little bit, but once the back frame is installed it will be held up, and there's not going to be any tendency for it to sag. Since it's not supporting any load, all it's doing is holding the fascia. The level is just to show the approximate alignment of the double track main line as it goes through the frame. I haven't got the height right yet. I believe I need to shave these joists by about 1/8 of an inch, or more likely I will shave the bottom of the sub-road bed as it goes over it. And I'll actually have to put some short risers in on the next ones. Anyway, I've got to take it out again because I forgot to sand it, so I'm just going to put it back down on the ground, sand it, build the one that goes behind it, and see how far I get this afternoon. So don't go away, I will check in with you again later. For the frame that goes along the front half of the peninsula, the front corner needs to be curved but still structural. I glued that up yesterday before I went inside, so let's go to the other side of the workshop and show you how I did it. For the front frame I need a curved structural piece. So here it is laminated from 4 pieces of door skin plywood. I started by plotting the shape I needed on the workbench and then toe screwing blocks of 2x4 along that line, and then I just laminated 4 layers of door skin plywood to that right curve and left it setting overnight. A friend of mine, Andrew Hardigan of Model Railroad Benchwork, did a very good tutorial on how to do this some time ago, so if you're interested, check out his channel. There's no point at all in me releasing another complete tutorial, since I'm not going to be able to improve on what he did. And even though I'm not quite ready for the piece yet, I do need the clamps. So I'm going to get rid of them now, and I'll check in with you again later. Well, I've been making very good progress today. I got this frame here assembled and installed this morning. I haven't put the front triangle on yet. That will be built in situ once the end section is permanently attached. That way this outrigger will be in exactly the right place. I don't have to worry about pulling it out of alignment when I frame the front piece. I've also done the next frame. It's almost complete. Now, because of the river valley, it is very shallow and under the wrong conditions would probably be rather flexible. But the riverbed, which is this piece of plywood that I've already cut, is actually structural. It splices the joint and ties the two halves of the frame together. And if you notice, I have put strips of plywood along the front edge, and while I'm stapling the plywood to the frame, I will push down in the middle, which will have the effect of leaving the outrigger slightly high. So that way the plywood riverbed is already pre-stressed, and as weight gets added to the end of it, it will straighten it up. So that is the plan. The next thing to do is to glue the river base in place, and for that I'm going to be using loads of wood glue and a whole load of air staples. So let me get on with that quickly, and I'll be right back. Well, I have run out of time today, but I did get the second frame in around the end of the peninsula. Neither of these are finished yet. I'm just working on what I need to frame to fill in this corner. I have this curved structural piece that I made a few days ago, and that will butt into here, and the other end of it will be about under this corner here, and then there'll be a straight piece where the level is now as a placeholder. Anyway, I don't have time to finish that today, so that'll be a project for tomorrow morning. I will check in with you then. Don't go away. Well, this morning I have got this corner framed in and the Subroad bed permanently installed all the way back to the Helix. See it disappearing to the distance. The grade lessens about halfway along the bit that you can see now. It goes from the 2% of the Helix to about 1 and a bit, and then the lower grade will continue all the way around this end curve and all the way down this side of the peninsula, and that will get it back to upper deck height. Right, this afternoon I want to get this frame finished and get it properly installed. It's still a little bit bouncy. I can wobble it slightly because I've not yet screwed it down to the lower level backdrop. That will add a lot of rigidity when that goes in. But that will be a project for this afternoon. So don't go away, I will check in with you again later. Well, I have run out of time today, but I've got this end piece almost done. The Subroad bed is permanently installed all the way around the curve at the end. I've got the corner pieces on both sides, the river bed in the end here. There's a little bit of a step allowing for some rapids. There's also a 1/4 inch step here where it crosses the benchwork joint, so there'll be another rapid here. Getting flat water across a benchwork joint is just about impossible, so that's why I need the rapid. So I've got the riverbed in all the way back here, and then there'll be another step up, another rapid, and slightly higher level all the way along the front. This curved piece will go in there and support the turn back curve at the end of the branch line once those clamps are able to come off. So, and I've also got the foam road bed in all the way through the middle of the peninsula. I had a slight hump here, so I've spliced in a short piece of 16th inch foam instead of 8th inch. That gives me another 16th of tolerance, and I'll be able to make up the steps with the glue because the glue has thickness. The fill-in pieces here I got from Hobby Lobby a while ago. It's sold in small sheets under the brand name of Silly Winks. I figured it would come in handy, and it has. So anyway, that's all I have time for today. I will continue tomorrow morning, but in the meantime, don't go away. Well, it seems like forever ago that I built the bottoms of the sea girders that will ultimately support the upper deck. Well, today I am going to be adding the first four of the top portions in. Here we have one just temporarily clamped in place. I'm just working out exactly how long it needs to be. At the moment it's about ½ an inch too long. It's a double 4-inch wide strip of 3/4 inch plywood, and it will be screwed and glued in the back corner. Already there's enough rigidity just from one clamp to support its own weight and the level. But by the time I've got plenty of wood glue and 8 long screws, it will be strong enough to support a ton of weight. This level, the front is plumb with the front edge of the lower deck, and the upper deck sticks out 1 inch further. The reason for that being that the client wants to eventually put some kind of framing around the low level dioramas, so that's why he has that inch to play with. So what I actually need is about ½ an inch cut back off there. It can be shorter since the front doesn't have to reach all the way to the front joist, but for the time being I'm going to make it that length. So I'm going to cut them all off to 35½ inches, then get them installed, and then I'm going to start framing up this area. The first piece is quite a large L-shaped bit which joins up with this one where the glue bottle is, goes all the way around and stops about 1 foot short of this second sea girder. So let me get on with that and I will be right back. Well, today has been a pretty productive day. I put that piece of Subroad bed in this morning, and then I got all the way around this corner. I did these 4 beams over this side and 2 frames in this corner, the mainline one around the front, and another L-shaped piece in the back that takes a few hidden tracks, a few hidden sidings. Let me go around the other side and I'll show you that close up. Here it is from the other side. It's just one long L-shaped piece. This leg in the corner just bears the weight down to the same ledger board that supports the second level, and then this leg halfway along stops it from sagging because it's nearly a 9-foot span otherwise. The framing is 4 inches deep, and then I cut it down to 2.5 just to give plenty of clearance over the helix. It is 3/8 of an inch higher than the framing that it meets up with. That is because this yard area gets 1/2 inch plywood and 1/2 inch foam. This area just gets the plywood and 1/8 inch foam. And this 1/8 inch reveal here is intentional. That is to allow for a piece of masonite along the edge as a fence. I'm not going to buy another sheet of door skin plywood. I have loads of offcuts of masonite which I'm going to use. It's just as good. So anyway, I'm going to go inside now and I will continue tomorrow. Go away. Well, it's Thursday morning. As I mentioned last night before I went in, yesterday I got this corner built. The project for this morning is to build the next section that goes in here. It stops just a few inches short of this bracket. It comes to about here, and then this one will be supporting the corner bit. I don't have enough wood to build the corner. I have just ripped up the last of my plywood on the table saw. I have just enough to fill in that gap, and then it'll be off to Lowe's tomorrow to get some more. I've got plenty to get on with this afternoon. I've got many feet of Subroad bed that I can put in. Well, the next frame is in and permanently attached. This corner has a temporary leg because, as you can see, it's not quite supported on the next bracket. That can come out once the corner section is built and installed. I've also got a dropped area for the stream bed that crosses the track here. This front joist will of course have to be cut narrower just a little bit, which is why I have a doubler behind it. I've got the corner shaper mounted, which is just a 16-inch radius quadrant, same as the other side. That will hold the fascia later. It's a good morning's work. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do this afternoon yet, so hang on and I'll be right back. Well, this afternoon I have got the Subroad bed worked out all the way around to the end. It's installed as far as here, and then the next 2 pieces are cut. Actually, the next 4 pieces are cut and positioned roughly. Those bits are all straightforward. I've done the hard stuff. Had to get the S-bend right, get the grade right. This clamp here is round about the top of the grade. It just levels out from there. And of course I had to make sure that I didn't have any supports in the way of the lower grade. I have installed this bracket. Note how there's now 2 bolts, one either side of this strong back. That holds the front up, and the plywood on the other side, the plywood Subroad bed, is in tension, and that is a structural member that stops this side sagging. At the moment it is a little bit flexible. It's about a 1/16 of an inch low, so what I have done is put this leg in just to make sure that I don't forget to jack it up again before I install the plywood. As soon as the Subroad bed on the other side has been installed, this leg can come out, because this bracket will then be doing its job properly. Anyway, that's all I have time for today, so I will check in with you again tomorrow. Don't go away. Well, that's all for this week. I hope you enjoyed the show. It's now off to Lowe's to get some more lumber so that I can continue next week. Until then, thanks for watching and bye for now.